I've got a question. Is 2026 the year of the dupe? Now, I'm not talking about a cheap knockoff. I'm talking about phone makers launching a phone last year and then basically releasing the same phone this year. If you saw my Sony Xperia 10 Mark 8 review, you'll know that's pretty much what I thought of that phone. And this year, the Samsung Galaxy FE line with the S26 FE is very similar to the S25 FE. It's got virtually identical specs in most areas. I'm going to dive into it, but before I do, another way of looking at this phone could be the S26 Plus Lite, because it's a lot bigger than the S26. So calling it an S26 FE doesn't really make sense in my head. Anyway, more about that phone in a second. But before I jump into the details, if you're not already subscribed to Tech Edit, please do. It's where tech gets a more inclusive edit. If you like this video, it ramps it up in search results, and that helps me out like crazy. So like it as well. Right, back to the S26 Plus Lite, or the S26 FE. The design is very familiar. It's fun, especially in pistachio, but you can also pick it up in graphite and blue, though pistachio is probably my favorite. It's a very Samsung looking phone. You've got a metal frame, slightly rounded corners, Gorilla Glass Victus Plus on the front and back. It weighs 193 grams, so it isn't too heavy, 7.4 millimeters. It isn't too thick either, despite its big size, therefore it feels relatively manageable. On top of that, IP68 water and dust resistance means it's pretty durable too. The 6.7-inch screen is very attractive. It's a Dynamic AMOLED 2X panel, 120 Hz refresh rate, though this isn't an LTPO panel, it's either 60 or 120 Hz. With up to 1900 nits peak brightness, the size, resolution, refresh rate, and brightness are unchanged from last year's S25 FE. Now, brightness is one area in particular. If you don't think 1900 nits is going to be enough for you, you'll definitely want to stump up to the 2600 nit S26 Plus. Other than that, though, on first impression, I was impressed by the S26 FE screen. It's big, immersive, bright, punchy, and it looks sharp enough, even if Full HD Plus isn't the crispest out there. There are 3 cameras around the back, and they're mostly unchanged from last year, at least as far as spec goes. The 50 megapixel primary camera is a 1/1.57-inch sensor, which is relatively big and is going to do the heavy lifting. You've also got an ultra wide, which is a 1/3 of an inch sensor, and you have an 8 megapixel 3x camera, which is absolutely tiny, 1/4.4 inches. Then you've got the selfie camera. Now this has had the most meaningful hardware boost. It's wider than its predecessor. Now when I quizzed Samsung about what's new from a camera experience, they lent on software in a big way. You've got night video, which has been improved. There's more zoom thanks to the computational photography. Samsung says 30x space zoom, but I'm gonna say that based on my experience, you could comfortably punch in around 10x. You'll definitely see some AI crisping things up, but still should be better than past devices without that AI upscaling. And then there's My FanCam, which can take a video and crop in on a subject to give you a social edit. As far as what's going on inside, it launches with Android 17 and One UI 9. And the best thing about this phone is arguably the future-proofing. From a software point of view, you've got 7 years of OS and security updates. And that is fantastic at any price point, and given this is slightly lower than flagship, it's especially good here. This is also the first non-flagship device to get Samsung's flagship AI features, Now Nudge, for example, audio erasers so you can erase background noise and focus on voices. There are also custom cards in Now Brief, which was introduced on the Galaxy Z Fold 8 series. And one thing that really stood out to me in the briefing was that Samsung focused on its document scanner for a second. Now, I would never have thought a document scanner, even a good one, would be the subject of a briefing on a new phone. But it was, and that really is case in point that this year hardware upgrades are limited, and so software upgrades will be the focus. And with a phone like this, you are paying for that 7 years, that future-proofing, and the cool software, a lot of which will probably be rolling out onto old phones anyway. Powering the phone is an Exynos 2500 built on a 3nm process, which is a slight upgrade over the 2400 in the S25 FE. This is the same chipset that you've seen in the Galaxy Z Flip 7, which performed well, but the Z Flip 7 actually performed similarly or worse in sustained tests than last year's S25 FE. That could be because of the form factor. But I definitely expect the S26 to be a modest upgrade, definitely not going to be a gaming powerhouse. One thing that really surprised me though was the downgrade to the USB-C port. It's now a USB-C 2.0 port, and that means if you're transferring a 50 GB file, it goes from around 6 minutes on the S25 FE to around 30 minutes on the new S26 FE. And that's maybe money saving for Samsung, but if you're a creator on a budget thinking about picking up this phone, definitely factor that in because it will really hurt your workflow. Every version gets 8 GB of RAM, even the premium 512 GB version, and there's also some virtual RAM that can bolster that. There's both wired and wireless DeX for big screen support, and the phone's powered by a 4900 milliamp battery. Charges at 45 watts, which has been optimized to be a little bit faster, even though the speed is the same versus the S25 FE. And there's also wireless charging too, which is great to see. 15-watt and reverse wireless charging as well. Samsung also promises better battery life, again, owing to optimizations, probably across the chipset and software. As for the price, the S26 FE costs £699 for 128GB, £709 for 256GB, and £949 for 512GB. I think most people should be settling around that £799 256GB price, none of which are expandable, like I said, all of which come with 8GB of RAM. If you're a gamer considering this phone, I'd probably hold off or just go for the flagship S26 Plus. If you just want a big screen that looks good, familiar Samsung hardware and software, then this should fit the bill, even if it doesn't have the best spec sheet around at the price. But what do you think? Is the Galaxy S26 FE just a little bit too deja vu for your liking, or is it actually looking like a pretty good all-rounder? Let me know in the comment. Remember, if you like this video, please do click that like button, subscribe to Tech Edit to stay on top of everything we do, and check us out on Instagram and TikTok where you can see some pictures and behind the scenes content. Have a wonderful day.